Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
We have a lot of heavy things to talk about today, and as soon as I
Yes,
said my name, I was like, we need like even the tiniest sliver of lightheartedness before we get into all of these
yeah,
heavy
I
topics.
know. We have three heavy topics, two heavy
Yes.
updates, a heavy episode. Um, what has happened? I wish I had a good, funny Kevin story. I don't know if I have one. I do for the next episode, but not this episode. Um,
You know what we should talk about? Have you
okay.
guys seen the movie Cruel Intentions? Because we watched this last week for our monthly girls' night, and it was a trip. It was quite an adventure.
It it walked so Gossip Girl could run. I'm sorry. This was the entire inspiration of Gossip Girl, and you
It has
cannot
to
convince
be.
me otherwise.
This movie was so bizarre, but like also very enjoyable. Like I had a great time.
I
Like it was a
actually
very,
really enjoyed it, and I've still been kind of thinking about it. And the
yeah.
way I keep saying emails are for geeks and pedophiles. I said it at, okay, I did say it at work, but like as a joke with like my coworkers being like, we just watched this movie and I'm gonna start saying that when people email me.
Yeah, Courtney was like, I'm gonna make that my email signature. And I was like, yes,
Hmm.
yes, we should. But yeah, it was something.
Yeah,
I had a great time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I
it was
can't say it's like
so
cinematic masterpiece, but it was very
no.
enjoyable, you
It
know?
was it gave me the feeling that like my reality TV shows give me, where it's
Yeah.
like this is like what is happening, but I am 10 out of 10 locked in right now.
Yes.
Like I have
Yes.
to know what happens. I'm so
Definitely.
invested.
Yeah, agreed.
So
Courtney also made some delicious loaded baked potatoes, so that's always a plus. But
they slapped, man.
they did.
I feel like
We
I looked
demolished
down.
ours. Like, we like,
I just started eating and I looked down and I was like, it's gone. It's
and
just
they were
gone.
some massive potatoes too.
They
Like we
were.
were pretty much licking the bowl. We
I
were like,
was. I was like, I couldn't even cut the skin anymore. I was just picking it up on a fork and eating it off because
just going to
there's
town.
nothing better than like baking the baked potato and you have like that butter and that salt on the
Hmm.
and I wash my potatoes, guys, don't worry. So they're clean. Sometimes I worry when you go to a restaurant, I'm like, how clean are these potatoes? Like, should I
Yeah,
eat the skin? But
but the
my
skin's so
home,
good for you.
I know. But in my home, I know I have a special veggie brush that I'm scrubbing that shit down with, so I know they're
You
clean.
can bake it off. It's fine.
Fine.
So yeah.
So our first kind of heavy topic, we are not going to use names just because we do not have permission. Don't, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but we got some very sad news that one of our like day one listeners, like pretty sure from day one, and she was one
Hmm.
of our first listeners who like did not know us through some connection. Like she wasn't a
Yeah.
friend of a friend. Like she lived across the country, had never met us. One
Hmm.
of our listeners. She would message us after every episode, whether it was good or
Every
bad
episode.
feedback, she kept us on our toes. But we
Yes,
need that sometimes, you know?
absolutely.
Well, you gotta have someone check you when you are putting shit out on the internet. And we just really enjoyed her. We always talked to her, and we unfortunately heard that she did pass away last month.
Yeah.
So that hit us both pretty hard in the feels.
Yeah.
Um, it was just really sad to see because she was very young. She was such like a loving
Hmm.
person. She was such a, again, she would just message us, talk to us. Felt like we really knew her, even though we never met her, and it was really sad.
Like anytime in, these intros or whatever, and we're like, you let us know, blah, blah, blah. She always did. She was always
She
messaging us,
gave us,
answering all the questions,
yes,
like every single time.
yeah. She always put in her feedback. She always gave us her perk of the week, also, and then she would sometimes give
Yes.
us her perk of the week and her decaf of the week. Um,
Yes.
but like I was looking it up after like I saw that, and like we started this podcast in March 2020. Like that's when we released it.
Hmm.
And she was a Patreon by April 2020. I didn't even know we
Yeah.
started a Patreon that early.
Right. Yeah. Like she was first person right
Yeah.
there. Like I think we even put it out there in an episode, like, oh, like let us know like if you guys would be interested. And she like immediately messaged us and was
Yeah.
like, yes, I would subscribe. And she did. And
And she did.
she was
And
here for over 5 years, like encouraging us every single
I
week.
have her
And
book on my bookshelf because she told us
yep.
she wrote a book. I went and bought it. Like, yeah, it's just hard because she was like one, like our day one listener. Like,
Yeah.
first few episodes. How she kept listening after that.
Right.
God bless her,
She
let me
stuck with
tell you.
us.
She was a real one. So we just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of we didn't want to say her name just because,
Hmm.
I don't really know her family, and I don't want to put someone who's already grieving in like
Yeah.
a position where they're upset more by something we've
Hmm.
done. Um, but yeah, there's no way to easily
I know.
transition into this topic, but
Yeah.
um, it's something that she would have also, when we talked about this message just about, because she would have also been pissed off because she was a real
Yes.
one.
That is
And that
true.
is the shit show that is America right now.
Yep.
Specifically, again, I know this comes out in 2 weeks, so God knows what has happened between now and then.
I feel like
But
we have said that every single episode for the last 6 months, and it's
yeah,
truly horrifying.
and it keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so what happened recently, 2 weeks ago in your time, God knows what's happening now. The ICE raids in LA happened where
Hmm.
ICE and the National Guard just came in and started taking people from their homes, from their businesses. Um, and there are a lot of protests in LA right now in kind of retaliation of this. I'm pretty sure the governor of California is doing his damn thing on social media and
Hmm.
currently is suing Trump
Yep.
because
Yep.
you can't send in the National Guard without the governor's request.
Hmm.
That is a law. So,
Just authorized, I think, like 700 Marines to go in as well. That just happened.
and I saw pictures too of the National Guard is just sleeping on the floor in office buildings with just their full gear on, no beds, no plan,
Wow.
and just taking people literally who are doing nothing wrong
Hmm.
except being undocumented because
Literally kidnapping these people.
it's
Like,
literally
and,
human trafficking. There's
and
no
I
due
would,
process. Like they're waiting for people to show up to their hearings to get their visas extended to get whatever and snatching them from their court hearings and putting them with
hmm.
no food, no water in detention centers. Like what the fuck is this? Is this literally Nazi Germany? Like
Yeah.
I know everyone says we're so extreme when we say that, like collectively, not
No.
us specifically, but collectively, but
Yeah.
now it's like people are like quoting Anne Frank's diary, being like,
Hmm.
and then it was like people would just disappear and they would just come pick them up off the streets. And it's like that's literally
Yep.
happening right now.
Yeah. And we don't even know if all of these people are undocumented, which even if
Yeah.
they were, it wouldn't matter. But it's like that's part of the whole thing is that they don't know that. And they're just taking people with this assumption and then making them prove themselves later. And it's like, that's not how
Yeah.
this works. Like,
And it's also like, it is not easy to become a US citizen.
not at all.
Maybe if you're rich and you're like a businessman with like a big proposal for like whatever, sure. But like for the normal person who's just trying to give their family a better life, it is not
Hmm.
easy. You have to have proof that you have a job. You have to have proof. But then also like you're not supposed to work while you're waiting. Like it's literally the most like backwards shit in the world. Like it's not so
Yeah.
easy to be like do it the legal way. Well, they'll probably be dead by that
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Like these are refugees, some of them from their countries. These are people who just overstayed a visa. They're not all quote unquote criminals because
Hmm.
I also am pretty sure like being like undocumented is like a civil issue, not like a criminal
Exactly.
issue.
It's yeah, it's not a crime. Yeah, it is a
So,
civil
matter.
hold on. I'm gonna look this up because I don't want to say something out of my
Yeah.
ass. Hold on.
But like, and if you're so concerned about criminals in the US, why did you elect a criminal as president?
Right?
That's a criminal. He's a literal felon.
Yeah, so it's civil matter, not a criminal offense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
But
it's,
yeah, exactly. Like the criminal, the like convicted criminal is the man in charge, but you're concerned about the quote unquote criminals.
yeah,
I also saw something today that was like you can't be illegal on stolen
on
land.
stolen land. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and we had kind of a, not that long of a discussion because we don't really know what the right answer is. So we're going to continue
Hmm.
the discussion right here live on the air. Not live. This is pre-recorded. This is not live at 4 a.m. on your podcast feed. Um, but we were like, obviously, like we want to talk about it, we want to comment on it because of everything that's happening. And then I just kind of saw this TikTok that really just kind of like shifted my mind on it of like, yes, it is important to talk about this, but we're also sitting from the safety of our homes thousands of miles away, being like, "Oh, how dare they?" And it's like, what are we actually doing? Especially like
Mm-hmm.
this creator is from like a deep red state and like grew up in that state, and that's also kind of where we live right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming deeper and deeper red as we continue on, and it's like, what can we do locally to like help make the change that we're talking about? Like, obviously, us like sitting on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and sharing things and all that. It's like, are you really changing minds? Are you really doing
Mm-hmm.
stuff to like help your immigrant community? Are you really doing stuff that's like changing people's minds? Because that's really like what's important. And like we're coming up on like 2026 is a big election year because right now
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of like heavily, heavily right people who are in the House, Senate, and the White House. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing right now, and that's why a lot of scary stuff is kind of getting passed very quickly. So it's
Yep.
like this is a big time to like shift that to make it more bipartisan, to make
Mm-hmm.
it more resistance on stuff, because there are a lot of great left-leaning people who were elected, but there's only so much you can do when you don't have the numbers. So
Exactly.
I think it's really, and we don't know the right answer. We're just
Mm-hmm.
two white women in Tennessee who don't know the answer and don't have enough money to help everybody.
Yes,
Um,
trying our best with what we have.
yeah, but like just try and like where you are, like look up like what are organizations that do stuff. Like I know there's an organization like here in Knoxville if you're local that like people who have to show up for like to show document like their monthly or however long like meetings and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. There's groups that show up and bring them snacks and water and like umbrellas if it's raining and like blankets if it's hot, like because they have to stand in line for hours to
Mm-hmm.
like just show, hey, I'm checking it. Here's me checking in or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just different organizations that do stuff that you might just not know about because they're a smaller organization. So just kind of look up, see what you can do. See what you can do to just like help the immigrant community. If you see ICE coming around, like warn people, like look at the different legal things that you can do to like help people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something we talked about too when we were talking about how to talk about this. A lot of talking, it is me and Courtney, that is what we do. But
Yep.
try to try to have those conversations with like your people. So like your friends and family that, unfortunately a lot of times like we have family members that we very strongly disagree on very major issues. But sometimes when it's your family, it's hard to I feel like friends are a different story. Like I feel like we're at the point now where it's like for these core fundamental issues, people aren't really becoming friends with people who
Yeah.
disagree with them. But your family members or people like that that are in your circle that you can have the conversations and not the lecture, which I get is very hard because it's
Yeah.
so easy to lecture and it's so easy to say like, how do you not see this for what it is? But really talking about like asking them why they feel the way they do and figuring out like how you can connect with them on things that you have similar views on, but
Hmm.
then just like questioning why it is they feel the way they do. And sometimes you lead them to think themselves through that they don't
Yeah.
actually think that way, you know?
And it's so hard because right now it feels so black and white because
Yeah.
it is like a human rights issue. So it feels black and white, and you're like, how can people like not see this? How can people whatever? But like, and sometimes it's just what it is. It's like you have to find like what your core values are and like make people see it. Because like you yelling, like if someone starts yelling at me, like I'm just shut down. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
You get into a fight, you're not getting
Mhm.
anywhere. Each side's just defending. So yeah, it's like having these like quality, like tell me what you mean and don't just yell at them, be like,
Yeah.
but what about this? Like have them just like some critical thinking happening because, you know, that can be hard, but we also just didn't want to be like here being like, this is so bad. How dare them? Fuck ICE, fuck Trump, and
Hmm.
then move on about our day and be like, okay,
Yeah.
bye. Um, so
Trying to really think about, like you said, what can you do locally to make a difference. And it doesn't have to be something huge. I mean, don't feel like you
Yeah.
have to like join an organization and like have this leadership role and do like all these major
Yeah.
things. It can be truly as simple as having a conversation with
Yeah.
someone, because one conversation leads to another, and then they might have a conversation with someone, and it's like that's how real change can happen.
Like encouraging people to register to vote,
Yeah.
encouraging people to vote, helping people get places to vote. Like if you're in a state that does early voting, be like, hey, you don't have a ride to go vote. Let me take you. I'm going to vote.
Yeah.
Come with me. I got 5 seats in my car. Let's go. Like
Hmm.
encouraging people to vote because I feel like a lot of times a lot of people feel so discouraged by like especially being in like the state we're in. Like I've heard so many people be like,
Hmm.
"Ah, well my vote doesn't matter." And it's like, but it does. It does so much. Like
Yeah.
if we ever wish to like kind of flip this narrative, we all have to stand together and do it.
Hmm.
So, even stuff like that of just like making sure people get out and vote because I know our state has one of the lowest voter turnout rates
Yeah.
of like any state. So it's like just getting people to sign up, encouraging people to vote, letting people know like voting days, where to find candidate resources and research and
Hmm.
what they believe in and what you believe in. Like,
And like Courtney and I are obviously like on the same page. And Courtney also texted me on election day to be like, did you vote? Have you voted? I can't remember exactly what, but it's like even like people that
yeah.
it still doesn't hurt to
I sent
send
it
those
in every
reminders.
single like group chat I'm
Yeah.
in, even when I knew people were voting. I was
Hmm.
like, "Hey, did you guys go out and vote today? Because it's election day.
Exactly. Yep.
Like, go vote."
And it's like sometimes somehow people forget. But maybe people like weren't planning on voting and they're like, you know what? Okay, yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
do, sometimes that kind of like that peer pressure, use peer pressure in a good way. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Damn, I just talked a lot. Now I gotta talk a lot more.
Take a sip of that water
I know, I
again.
gotta take a sip of water. Had to make sure I didn't choke on the water. 'Cause you know when you drink it too fast and you're like, I've done that so
Yep.
much recently. I don't understand what's wrong with, well, I got a lot wrong with my brain right now, but I've just been like, I don't know, I've been choking so much. It's crazy.
I have that problem a lot when I'm like working out and I'm drinking water because I'm like breathing heavy and then I like inhale it and then I'm just
Yeah.
like screwed for like the next 10 minutes. It's bad.
I feel like it happened when we just hung out where I went to say something and I was like, and then I was like choking. Like,
Remind
oh
me.
yeah. Do you remember what it was?
Remind me to send you this video after we get off. Because Millie was singing the other day and she did exactly that where she like breathed in and like started choking and like coughed and then went back to her song and it was really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, are you guys ready to hear more sad shit? Because we're just
nope.
keeping
I'm
the
gonna
ball rolling.
I'm gonna head out.
Jacqueline's gonna mute herself and walk away until I'm like, Jacqueline, you have to come back.
Come
I
back, it's
can't
your
read the
turn.
rest of this. They said I already talked too much. They're sick of my voice.
Whew.
Um, okay. So our sources this week is an episode of Killer Couples, which is season 18, episode 8, and two articles from Fox 23. So 29-year-old Sarah Maguire was kind-hearted and always willing to help someone in need, and her generous nature was taken advantage of and put her in a situation that led to her losing her life. So Sarah Elizabeth Maguire grew up in Apache, Oklahoma. They were a farm family with 4 children. So Jamie was the oldest, and then it was Lindsay, Sarah, and then they had a baby brother named Seth. Their parents worked a lot, so the siblings were close. You know, those latchkey kids will really bond together when they have to. Um, so their parents actually did end up divorcing when Sarah was around 10 years old, and their dad remarried 2 years later. And their mom and Lindsay moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, while the other children stayed with their dad, which I always think is so great. Like, thankfully, my parents stayed together, but I always think it's so weird to like, wow, what if me and my sister were just like separated?
It's very like Parent Trap, like what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean, maybe it's just that, they wanted to
Hmm.
live in that state and it just kind of
Yeah.
worked out for everyone. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird to
I
think
definitely
about.
get it, but I'm like, that would be so crazy to be like, how are we splitting up?
Yeah.
So in 2007, during her sophomore year of high school, Sarah decided to move to Tulsa to live with her mom and sister. And it took her a while to figure out what she wanted to do after high school, but then she became the office manager for Speedy's Towing, and she loved her job and her coworkers. Sarah was described as bubbly, charismatic, and someone who would help anyone in need, and she would make friends with anyone and was very protective over those she loved. And she was happy and content with her life. So on January 4th, 2022, Sarah didn't show up for her shift at the towing company, and she was very reliable, so they're like, this is not like her at all. So another employee called the Tulsa police and asked them to do a welfare check on Sarah. So when police arrived at her apartment, they found it locked, but they could see through the blinds that someone was lying on the couch and covered with a blanket. And when there was no answer, police did breach the window and unlock the front door. So they immediately saw blood on the blanket near the person's head, and when they removed the blanket, they found a woman in her 20s with gash marks and blood all over her face and hair. It was obvious that she was dead, but they couldn't be certain it was Sarah without a positive identification. Sarah had several tattoos, so police took photos to share with family members to confirm her identity, and her family members verified her tattoos, and they were able to confirm that unfortunately the body did belong to 29-year-old Sarah Maguire. So Sarah had blunt trauma to the head, and there was a pool of blood on the blanket and the floor next to her. There was food out on the counter, and it appeared that someone had eaten some pork chops and mac and cheese and took some with them when they left, which is always, I think, so eerie. Like people, like with food out, like whether someone taking it after the crime or even just being like, wow, you were like sitting down to eat and then like this
It just
happened.
shows such a level of like dissociation with what you just did that you're able
Mm-hmm.
to like, oh well, I'm just gonna have a snack while I'm here. And
Well,
it's
I'm
like,
not gonna leave my leftovers.
exactly.
So Sarah's wallet and phone were missing, but there were no signs of a struggle or forced entry to the home, and investigators believe that the crime was too violent to be a robbery gone wrong. A crowbar that had been recently cleaned was sitting on Sarah's dresser, just a few feet away from her body, and investigators believe that this was the murder weapon. So they started canvassing the neighborhood, but neighbors didn't really see or hear anything. They did learn that Sarah drove a 2012 white Dodge Charger that wasn't parked where it normally was, so they put out a bolo for the stolen car in the hopes it would lead them to Sarah's killer. So investigators then started interviewing Sarah's family to see if she had any conflicts with anyone, and they did learn that Sarah had been in an on again, off again relationship with a man named Walter Spradlin. So their relationship had started about 6 years earlier, but Walter got involved with drugs, and Sarah's family tried to tell her she couldn't fix him, and they had been separated for good for about a year and a half at the time of her death. Investigators met with Walter, who said he was at home with his mom all night, which is never a great alibi. You know those mamas be lying, but you know.
Anytime I hear that, I'm just like, are we sure though? Because
But in this case, his mom and other family members confirmed his alibi, so he was ruled out as a suspect. So, since her wallet and credit cards had been stolen, Sarah's family monitored her bank account activity and they saw that her credit card was still being used. So, transactions started in Oklahoma and then moved up to Missouri and over to Arkansas. Cash was taken out of her debit account at a Walmart, and the family noticed a transactions just minutes earlier from a Whataburger in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is about 100 miles from Tulsa. So investigators reached out to Fayetteville police and asked them to check out the Whataburger for any suspicious activity or Sarah's stolen car. So when they arrived around 11 a.m., Sarah's Dodge Charger was parked in the parking lot of Whataburger, and a man and woman were sleeping inside. So the officer called for backup and they surrounded the car and ordered the man and woman out with their hands up, and they were handcuffed and taken into custody. And this was after Sarah had been found like less than 24 hours earlier. So they acted very quickly on this. The bolo worked, the transaction monitoring worked, all of that.
like they found them very quickly for them being another state away.
Yeah, definitely. And just like so happened to be like still at that fast food restaurant. Like,
Yeah.
what are the odds?
Yeah.
So the man and woman were cooperative and willingly identified themselves as Nicholas Johnson and Brinley Dennison. And when they were taken into separate police vehicles, Nicholas said, I love you, babe. And she said, I love you too. Just like every sweet
Ugh.
couple.
It was just such a weird because like they in the show, like they show the police footage from like when they were taken into custody, and it's just like okay,
Love
I'm heading home
ya.
now. See you when we get home. Like just such a like nonchalant, like
Yeah.
very, very
So
eerie and
calm.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were taken to the Fayetteville police station, and Tulsa detectives were already on their way to interview them. So they decided to interview Brindley first because the crime was so violent that they assumed the man had killed Sarah, and they weren't sure if like Brindley was a victim as well. Like, is she in an abusive relationship? Is she also kidnapped? Like, kind of what's going on. So they asked her how she knew Sarah, and she said they were friends, and Sarah's ex-boyfriend Walter had introduced them. Brindley was looking for a place to stay, and Sarah had offered her the shed in her backyard. And Brindley had been living on Sarah's property for weeks. She said Sarah was good to her, and investigators asked how Brindley knew Nicholas, and she said she'd known him for years.
So, Brinley Dennison was 25 years old and had lived in Tulsa her whole life. She had a sister, and her dad said that she had a very normal childhood, but started running wild a little around 13 years old when her parents divorced. She then got pregnant during her senior year of high school and dropped out of school. After her baby was born, she got her GED and went to cosmetology school, but then she started hanging out with a rough crowd, started doing drugs, and getting into trouble with the law. She was a heavy partier and had been arrested several times, most recently for theft. So her dad got her out of jail, and she initially stayed at his house, but then she left after the first night. And that's when Walter introduced her to Sarah, and Sarah let her stay in the shed because Brinley said she needed somewhere to go. So Nicholas Johnson was 29 years old and also grew up in Tulsa. He lived with his dad, but they often bounced around between friends' houses and just kind of stayed wherever they could. His childhood was not very stable. And in July of 2012, at 19 years old, Nicholas met his wife, Stacy. They got married a few months later and quickly got pregnant with their first child, and they went on to have 6 children together, which is a lot.
That's so many kids. Like,
Yeah,
starting at like
19.
19?
Yeah. Well, they met when he was 19 and then they got married and had their first child shortly after. So maybe like 20, maybe 21.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, but we're in 2022. So in those 10 years, they had 6 kids.
Yes, because he is not even 30 years old
Ah,
yet.
that's so
Yeah.
crazy. In 10 years, 6 kids. That is too much.
A lot
That's
of
like
children very
10 under
quickly.
10.
Yeah.
Wait, 6 under 10. Oh, got my
Yeah.
numbers
Too
mixed
many
up.
under
Too
10.
many kids.
Too many is all you need. So Nicholas and Brinley met in 2019, and they started having an affair. And Nicholas was also into drugs like Brinley, also had trouble holding down a job, and he started spending less time at home with his wife and kids and more time with Brinley. So Nicholas and Brinley had an on-again, off-again relationship, and Brinley told investigators that the last time she had spoken to Nicholas before that night was when she broke up with him and that they had this huge falling out. So investigators asked what happened to Sarah, and Brinley said that the night before, Sarah had made her dinner, and the two of them had been eating together when Nicholas arrived at the home. So Brinley let Nicholas into the home, and she said that he was just in love with her and trying to make up with her. But then he noticed sexual pictures of Brinley and Sarah together and got enraged. So Brinley said that she was in love with Sarah and that neither of them were gay, but they found themselves attracted to each other.
I mean, I've seen people say that where they're like, it's
Yeah.
not like, I'm attracted to men, I'm attracted to women, I'm just attracted to the person. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
some
Yeah.
people are like, I don't want to call myself bisexual, I'm just attracted to people. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
This one
I
just
don't,
happens to be
I'm
a
sure there's a
woman.
specific term for that, but sorry, guys.
I was
In
like, I want to
Pride
say,
Month, look at me in Pride Month being a bad ally.
I was like, we can cut this out, but I want to say it's pansexual, but I might, but I don't want to get, I don't want people coming
No,
for us. We'll cut this all out.
hold on.
But
Now I
isn't
gotta look
isn't
it up.
pansexual like you're attracted to like anyone of any gender? Like there's not like a
Okay, yes, you're correct. Pansexual is used to describe someone who experiences sexual or romantic attraction to people of all genders without regard to their gender identity or assigned sex. So, I was thinking of, is it demisexual, where it's like you're only attracted to people after you have like a connection with them? Like basically like you don't do like one night stands. Like,
mm, yeah, I'm not sure.
let me look it up. Yeah, so it's a sexual orientation where individuals experiencing sexual attraction only after forming a strong emotional connection. So it's like
Okay.
it's more complicated than just no one night stands, but it's like
Yeah,
you don't feel that sexual attraction until you already have that like emotional attraction.
I gotcha.
Sorry guys, that was a bit of a deep dive.
Went on a little sidetrack there. Um So Brinley claims that she then fled to a back bedroom because Nicholas started attacking Sarah with a crowbar. She said after the attack, Nicholas came into the bedroom and raped her. He told her they were going to travel to Devil's Den, Arkansas, and would toss the bloody clothes and other evidence along the way. So Brinley claimed that Nicholas was holding her hostage and she feared for her life. However, detectives were skeptical of this story because they recovered surveillance footage from the Walmart where Sarah's debit card had been used. So Nicholas went into the store alone for about 20 minutes to sell a cell phone for cash, and Brinley remained in the car alone. So she's in this car alone for 20 minutes of a fairly busy Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
If she had really been held hostage, then she probably would have been able to escape then. Also, both Brinley and Nicholas were asleep in Sarah's car at the time it was recovered and they were arrested. So you're just literally sleeping in the car. He was also asleep. So,
Yeah, you could have snuck out then because you're also at a fast food restaurant and
yeah. Meanwhile, in Nicholas's interrogation, he tells investigators that he didn't kill Sarah. He said Sarah was trying to put a wedge between him and Brinley, and it made him jealous. He told investigators that he only went to the house to try to get Brinley back, and that Brinley and Sarah were arguing when he got there. So Brinley stepped outside with him to calm down, and she told him she was happy to see him, and they agreed to try to move forward with their relationship. Nicholas said that Sarah was asleep on the couch when they came back inside, and he said it was then Brinley's idea to steal Sarah's car and money, but that she started saying, and then she started saying that she wanted to take her out. So Nicholas said the murder wasn't his idea, but he did acknowledge that he was angry with Sarah because she had caused problems in their relationship. He said the crowbar was in the kitchen and Brinley brought it into the living room and handed it to Nicholas and told him to do it. He said he then blacked out and just zoned out during the entire attack. Afterwards, he and Brinley had consensual sex in the bedroom while they could hear Sarah struggling and fighting for her life, which is just absolutely disgusting and horrific.
yeah, that's so disgusting.
Yeah. Like that's worse than taking the leftovers and sitting down and having a
Yeah.
meal. Like,
Sorry I ever commented on that. That's nothing in this case, really.
right. So when they left the house, Brinley went through Sarah's bedrooms and started putting stuff in bags, including Sarah's purse and credit cards, some electronics, and a bag with some clothes. Nicholas said Brinley was the one in control of the credit cards, but the Walmart surveillance footage, like I said, showed him going into Walmart alone when Sarah's debit card was used to take cash out. So they're both trying to blame each other here.
I was gonna say this is not a ride or die couple because the
No.
second they get in these interrogation rooms, she's like, he kidnapped me.
Yep.
And then he's like, I'll tell you what happened. They're
Mm-hmm.
just
Exactly. Immediately
letting it
turned
all
on each
out.
other.
Yeah.
Yep. So Nicholas's background check revealed a few charges for drug possession, while Brindley had a pretty lengthy rap sheet, including drug possession, credit card theft, and armed vehicle theft. So this is not her first rodeo. On January 6th, Nicholas Johnson and Brindley Dennison were charged with first-degree murder and extradited to Tulsa. Prosecutors were seeking the death penalty, so Nicholas Johnson took a blind plea, which means that he pled guilty to first-degree murder and possession of a stolen vehicle without knowing what the judge would sentence him to. So it wasn't like a deal where he's like, okay, I will plead guilty because you're offering me this specific sentence. He was like, okay, I'll do it, and then you make the judgment.
So with this blind plea, because I've never really heard of this,
I've never heard of this, no.
could he still have been sentenced to death? Because normally when you take a plea deal, you're doing
Yeah.
it to like avoid the death penalty. But if he's
hmm
like, I'm taking this, but I don't know what the judge is sentencing him to, like he could still be sentenced to death, right?
I don't know for sure. I would think so technically, and maybe it was like a good faith kind of thing where they're
Yeah.
like, okay, like we can't guarantee, like it's not like a like we're not taking it off the table, but like it'll be in your favor if you do
Yeah.
this
I mean,
plea.
usually that is, but I'm like, I'm just thinking where you're like, was it still on the table?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know for sure. I've never heard of this before.
Me either. And then I was also like, which I don't think this is true. Like, you don't, a jury doesn't have to be the one to only be the one find you of the death penalty. Like, a judge can also do that, right? Or can a judge not do it? It has to be like a jury. Did I make that
Hmm.
up?
No, I'm thinking, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm
That's a
just
good
talking again
question.
over here.
That's a good question because hold that thought.
I know. Which one are you Googling?
If a judge can sentence
Okay.
someone to the death penalty.
Yeah, so looking up a blind plea, it's literally throwing yourself at the mercy of the court. So you're hoping you get a
Wow.
lighter sentence, but it also carries the risk of a harsher sentence. I still don't know
Wow.
if the judge himself can do death penalty. You got that
I'm
one?
still
You got that
uh
one? It's
no, because I
complicated.
have yes, I'm getting different answers. So I'm trying to I'm working on it.
Okay, so this is from something else from November 2024, where someone took a blind plea, but it's going back to trial because the death penalty's back in play.
Oh,
But I don't know where this is because it could vary per state. This is in Oklahoma. Is that the same state?
okay.
Are we in Arkansas? We're Oklahoma. We're in Tulsa,
We're in
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Yeah, we're in Tulsa. Yeah, we're in Oklahoma.
So,
Is this an
okay,
Oklahoma specific thing?
maybe. So basically this woman, Alicia Adams, she's charged with the death of a 4-year-old, backed out of the blind plea and will now go to trial. So that's not really saying um
But did she back out of the plea after she was given her sentence and she was like, "Whoop, just kidding."
I don't know. She changed her mind minutes before entering the courtroom. So I guess she was like, I'm going to come in and do a blind plea. But then she got in there and was like, not guilty. Maybe.
Okay, okay.
Like she told them, like, yeah, do a blind plea.
I'm not finding a clear-cut answer here. Um, because I found something saying that the Sixth Amendment requires jurors rather than judges. But no, that says to find each fact necessary to impose the death penalty, which sounds like a jury would have to make the
Hmm.
decision on a death penalty. But then other things say that a judge can
I
make a death
think it,
penalty ruling or can override a jury and impose a death sentence.
okay, so this is the AI overview. So I'm not sure if but it does reference an article. But it was saying outside of Alabama, a judge cannot independently sentence someone to death. A jury must recommend it first.
Okay.
However, some states like Alabama allow a judge to impose death sentence even if the jury recommends life. So, but that's also in a trial.
Okay. Okay.
So,
So maybe, that was
like you
kind of put it
knew,
off the table.
yeah, like you knew, like, well, I'm not going to get the death penalty because the jury's not
Hmm.
recommending it. Again, that
Yeah.
was the AI overview answer. So, if you study law and you know
Mm.
more about this, please write it and tell us because we're just Googling.
Yeah, because I mean, I went down several different articles and found conflicting information, so I did not
Yeah.
have a definitive answer there. Um, so Nicholas pleaded guilty in May, and in July he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So Brinley's defense attorney said there wasn't enough evidence to prove that she was primarily responsible for Sarah's murder. So Nicholas was called to testify at a preliminary hearing, and the judge ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to try Brinley for first-degree murder. So Brinley pleaded guilty to accessory to murder and received a sentence of 20 years. So she will be eligible for
Wow.
parole in 2039 at 42 years old.
That's not that far away.
No, and that's so young at 42 years old, and you still have so
42.
much life left.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. When, according to Nicholas's account, she was,
Just as
um,
responsible.
yeah. Also want to note here that the sexual photos mentioned of Sarah and Brinley were never found, and no one else has been able to confirm that Sarah and Brinley were in any kind of romantic relationship. So that is Brinley's story. Obviously, Sarah is not here to tell her side of the story. No one
Hmm.
else in Sarah's family has said, like, yes, they were together. Yes, we saw those photos. The photos were never found, which I assume Brinley probably would have taken them with her. But why were they not found in her person? I don't know. So just want to put that out there that that story is Brinley's story, and there's nothing confirming that.
Yeah,
So,
that's just what she's saying, and she's a very unreliable narrator.
yes. And that is the very tragic murder of Sarah Maguire, who was literally just trying to do a good thing and let someone stay with
Hmm.
her who was down on their luck. And that's how she was repaid.
Ugh, that's so brutal because there's so much negative and like bad in the world that you want to be that little like spark of goodness and like helping people out and like
Yeah.
being kind. And then when it's like this, you're just like, ugh, it's
Yeah,
horrible.
it is. It is very sad, and we've covered a lot of sad things today, so we are sorry for that.
Oh.
So I hope
Next
you have
week, though,
a
guys, next week's case, nobody dies.
yes,
And it's
that's
gonna
always
be
a
like
plus.
great commentary. Like, there are people probably hurt.
Yeah,
There are people hurt in this story, but nobody is like murdered or killed.
yes,
So,
always a positive there.
yeah.
So that being said, Courtney, I hope you have a very good perk of the week to bump us up, please.
So, what's the definition of good? Um, So my perk of the week is I have seen this show multiple times, but I have never dived into it.
Hmm.
And that show is Love Island. So basically, I've heard people talking about it. I'm a huge Vanderpump Rules fan, and so when Ariana was like the host last season, I was like, that's so cool. I should watch it. So the new season was coming out, and I'm like, I'm so interested. And then my future sister-in-law like sent a snap about it or whatever. And I was like, wow, I've always been interested in it. And she was like, well, you should start it now because episodes release every day. Every fucking day, y'all.
That's a lot. It's too much. It's too
That's
much.
a lot of TV. But you know what? Aside from tonight, because Kevin's like, what are you gonna do? Aside from tonight, it has actually been kind of great because it airs at 9. So what happens is
Hmm.
I turn it on at 9. I get all cozy and settle down. I watch my little trash TV, and then I get up and get ready for bed and go to bed. And so like I have a because what happens is if I'm watching other stuff, if I'm playing a game, if I'm reading, I end up staying up until 11, 11:30
Hmm.
midnight, and I can't do that anymore. I'm still recovering from brain surgery. I'm very tired. I need more sleep than I did before. So now it's like this perfect little segue into like, all right, it's 6 o'clock, you have to go to bed. So, but no, it's been good. It's just kind of it's like interesting because it's happening like real time. So like
Hmm.
everything you're watching happened like a day or two ago, which is like cool instead of this like this happened months ago and now we're talking about it again. And they have like no idea how people are perceiving them on the internet.
Interesting. Okay.
So, like, there's this one couple right now, and they're like, everyone calls us like mom and dad. Like, everybody loves us. And they've been like coupled up since day one. The people of the internet fucking hate them. And like, you do win money in the show at the end, too. So, I feel like
Hmm.
you're like America's favorite couple. Like, you
Hmm.
hopefully are in a relationship, but you also win money at the end.
Hmm.
So, I think it's like pretty cool because there's like different challenges where they're like making people like make out with other people because it's like you need to explore all these people and not just like couple up with the first person you met on day one. So,
Yeah, that sounds fun.
it's entertaining, you know? It's just hot people making out, so it's kind of fun. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that was good or not, but I've been invested for sure.
Well,
So,
good. And it's got you on a nice little routine, so
a
that's good.
nice little routine, a nice little schedule. I'm unable to look at my phone, um, any social media until I get to watch tonight's episode that's finishing airing right now, but you know, it's fine.
I was like, are you
Um,
going to stay up tonight and watch it, or are you going to watch it
no,
tomorrow and get caught up?
no, I am taking a shower and my ass is going to bed because even when I go to bed, if I can 10 something, when I wake up, I'm still tired. So
Yep.
can't do it to myself. But that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is also a TV show, but two very different TV shows. And I apologize if this has been my perk of the week before, but I know it's been a while if it has. But it's Law and Order Organized Crime. So I want to say, don't laugh at me, Courtney. I want to
Too
say
late.
it's a new one. But this is the fifth season, so it's not, that new. But in terms of Law and Order, it's still a little baby. So, but it's, the,
It
the
doesn't have
spinoff.
30 seasons, so.
Exactly. It's the spinoff that has Elliot Stabler and it's focused on obviously organized crime in New York City. But this last season has just been really good. And I watched all of season 4 when I was on maternity leave because I was so behind at that point that I had not watched any of that season. And
Hmm.
then I Also, you're over here talking about your daily TV show, and I'm so proud of myself because I'm caught up. The season finale is Thursday, and I'm caught up. So
Look at you. Look at
I
you.
knew you'd be so proud of me. So Andrew and I watched the last one last night, and then I was like, oh, that's it. And then I like looked it up, and I was like, oh, the season finale is Thursday. I'm always so behind. I don't even know when the season finales are. And then I was like, it's coming up. So
It's coming up.
yes, very excited about that. And yeah, but it's been really good, and Andrew's been watching it, and I think mostly enjoying it with me. So that's always fun to have something to watch together. 'Cause, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Kevin watches my reality shows with me, but mostly he sits there and just makes judgy comments. But you know what it tells me? You're watching.
He's paying
So
attention at
he's
least.
paying
Yes,
attention. You can't make judgy comments if you're not listening. And
exactly.
before anyone comes for me, we have his and her TVs in the living room. So it's not like he has nothing else to do. He has his little Xbox and the bigger TV. So he has plenty of things to do.
There's plenty of options.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to tell us about your shows that you're watching, let us know your thoughts on this case. Let us know if you have any, organizations that you want us to highlight. If you have any good, strategies, tips, things that you have done or come across to make a difference in your local community that you think we can share out with everyone who listens, our little community, please reach out to us. We are in all the places, all the things. We're on the show notes. We're also on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes. You hear the same spiel every week, but we have over 50 bonus episodes. We have pins, stickers. You can chat with us on Discord. We just have another lovely little community over there if you want to join us. What am I forgetting?
If you wouldn't mind to give us 5 stars on Apple,
Yes.
Spotify, give us a like, a subscribe, a nice comment on YouTube. Um, all of those things are always greatly enjoyed. And yeah, in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.